Hey guys, and welcome back to another Conan Exiles video. Today we are building a PvE Pyramid Base in the desert of the Exiled Lands, specifically right on the border of map square I6 and I7, just north of Marauder's Muster. The requirements for this build are on screen now. I of course used Pyramid, with Arena just for the stairs and Black Ice just for the doors. So without further ado, let's get started. I began with of course the base plate. I started on the central pyramid, from which I followed the design on the blueprint I showed earlier. It's a pretty simple base plate, but will work very well for this pyramid. Once the base plate was down, I placed pyramid walls to define the interior space, making sure everything runs flush and in line, aside from the triangular doorway I created with the inverted corner slanted pieces. From there I placed the vaulted and regular ceilings above, as the subsequent pyramid slant walls will need to sit on top of these pieces. Things will look really plain inside without the vaulted ceilings, so they are pretty important for overall shaping. I also added a large central pillar to pass some extra stability up the centre just in case. From there, I built some stairs up to the first floor. I wasn't too sure what the best way to handle this would be, but I ended up going for a right angle staircase into a straight tile and right angle again within a 3x1. That isn't reflected here just yet, it's still a 2x2, but it will change shortly. On the first floor, I again used slanted pyramid pieces to define the interior area. I used triangular doorways to branch out onto the top of each balcony extension, which will further branch out to the defensive walls. Pyramid building is a pretty simple affair, even with additions like triangular doorways. However, I will say things can get pretty cramped very quickly if you're not careful. Once the walls were finished, I also made that aforementioned adjustment to the staircase. From there, I replicated the stairs again on the first floor leading up to the second, and carried that central pillar up again. I partially sealed the top of this floor with regular and vaulted ceilings, leaving an open section for the staircase. Afterwards, I built the walls up once more, using triangular sections on each side to add a bit more shape into the design. Once those triangular accents were done, I continued to build up the pyramid to its apex, finishing it off with a black top cap. I also added that top cap to the top of each of the triangular segments around the pyramid to have a consistent piece of colour design. From there, I quickly added some pillars to sit outside the pyramid to offer some lighting, and then we moved on to the exterior defensive wall. I'll flash up the blueprint here again so you can see the shape of the defensive walls. This is a pretty simple design in terms of the actual shape itself, but I did end up creating a lot of busy work for myself by making it a bit more aesthetically pleasing. I created the base from pillars and ceilings as I intended to slot the walls and create a bit more texture. During the process of building these walls, I'll also connect the first floor balconies to the defensive wall to make accessing them a bit easier. Once the basic shape was up, I then moved on to slotting the base plate of the walls. As I mentioned in my review of this set, the one real downside of the pyramid pack is that slotting is a bit harder, as the door frames are particularly chunky. Therefore I had to use sandstone door frames, then place the foundations inside, and then replace the door frames with the pyramid ones I actually want to use. If you haven't yet seen my guide on how to slot base plates, the card for that video is in the top right now. Once all that busy work was done, including placing walls on the top tile to merge it into the ground. I then used regular walls to close off the wall and make it appear more solid on the exterior. I'll actually be omitting the walls on the interior behind the pillars, as I quite like the look of seeing the large pillar heads between the walls. From there, I use walls and ceilings to build up guard segments where I can place thralls or just generally have a walkable area atop the defensive wall. I then created a small stair section at the front door to access the wall above the door, and continued to add stairs around the base to allow access to the corner towers. I chose Arena here as they look particularly dark compared to the pyramid set, which draws a nice tonal parallel with the black pyramid toppers. This section was also where I added the connectors between the balconies and the wall. I have said wall a lot of times. I also built the corner segments up one tile higher to give them a bit of a better view over the area, but also to add a bit of vertical difference across the walls. Finally, I added footers just to bolster the design and keep things looking solid, to make it better look like this wall could actually protect the pyramid within. I then went back inside the pyramid and separated off a room behind the staircase section. This is designed to be the treasure room, and it helps to streamline this floor a bit, as it will be our main workshop. Finally, when the shell of the build was done, it was then time to of course furnish. I've added archers to the top of the walls and also used flags to add just a touch of colour. Wall decals also work really well here to break up the sandy tones of the pyramid set, and some sparse lighting with the Relic Hunter wall torches and Zamorian torches further help in that aspect. Inside the base, the courtyard is a sort of working area where I've placed both storage and workstations that I couldn't fit inside. This was a great place to use the scaffolding pieces from the Age of Sorcery Chapter 3, as they can work quite well for shelving. I also included two of the large furnaces either side of the pyramid, alongside a large carpentry bench on one side of the yard and a very small aloe vera farm on the opposite. Inside the pyramid, on the ground floor, we've got the main workshop area. I've managed to get almost everything in here, I think, including some of the larger benches. This base is meant to be at least reasonably practical for PvE, and I think this layout is a pretty good core design for a workshop. The shaping from the vaulted ceilings, alongside sparse use of decorative items, helps to keep this floor looking pretty nice and clean. The treasure room at the rear is fairly small, though it is nicely laid out. This section could be expanded if you wanted to have more room for heroic treasures, but as it is, This configuration is a bit more suited for smaller treasures and precious metal bars or coins within the coffer itself. On the first floor is a small extension of the workshop, including a casting table, a dyer's bench and a large fireball cauldron. This floor is very much a transitional space, and it was kind of difficult to get these stations in here and also include anything actually meaningful on this floor, so I tried to make sure you'd only come here if you were going elsewhere in the build or needed to use these stations. The doors on this floor lead out to the balconies, each of which connect to the different segments of the exterior walls. This was actually a pretty elegant solution to reaching the disconnected wall segments, as just using staircases would have made the back and sides of the courtyard pretty cramped and fairly ugly. Finally, on the top floor is a basic bedroom with room for 4 clanmates to claim a bed each. You could definitely squeeze more in here, though I didn't just want to spam beds down and call it a day. I actually did want the room to have at least some flow to it. Overall, this pyramid base turned out quite well. It's nestled into the environment nicely and provides plenty of utility for a PvE setup. I also included a well and some gibbet cages around the back for water and thrall breaking respectively. The only thing this build is really missing is a large wheel of pain, an animal pen and a stable, but those could be quite easily added into the design by just expanding the exterior walls, especially on the sides or the rear. And there we have it, a PvE Pyramid Base in the Exiled Lands. Thank you for watching, and of course a massive thanks to our wonderful esteemed coffee cultists for continuing to support the channel over on Patreon. I'm thinking of tackling a Stygian tavern design with this set. I think it could work quite well. If that's something you'd like to see, then do let me know in the comments. As always, if you enjoyed this video, do go ahead and subscribe, there's always more content coming. Again, thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you soon.